Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 196 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave your question in the comments of this video, and as I said, hopefully you'll be featured next week. If you do happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I just want to say, you know, I do apologise for the way I have things laid out at the moment. I've literally just moved up into my new collection room. I brought the table up and I don't have my usual white background. But at this moment in time, I haven't fully decided how I want to film my videos for future. And that includes reviews and Ask Bossk Bounty. You know, do I have my collection sort of like in the background and the things that I'm talking about on the desk like this, or do I just have the white background? Let me know in the comment section below what you think about that. As I said, I haven't fully decided. I am only using the lighting from the lights in the ceiling at the moment. I haven't got my lamps on or anything, so also let me know, you know, on how you feel about that, because obviously, you know, production quality is something that I do try to get as good as I can get it. So if, you know, this is a collection room, but I'm also going to be using it as my YouTube studio, and I want to get it as good as possible. Thank you to everybody that tuned into the live stream last night, which was the launch party of the last figure standing poll that we are running. Myself, Chris from Bantha Skull, John Miko from the Vintage Collection Facebook group, and Jason from Yak Face. We had a great time last night launching that, so be sure to get your votes in. You'll be able to see it across all of social media, hopefully, and that should be a lot of fun over the next, you know, 3 or 4 weeks. I also want to say a big thank you to Gary Moore. Gary Moore is a Patreon supporter, and this box arrived in the post yesterday. I've opened it up. I do know what's in here because he said he was going to be sending me this. So I'm just going to open this on camera now, because I do just want to, you know, show you all guys what he sent and read it out, because it is really good, this. So he says, "Hi Tim, please find enclosed the Han with trench coat to complete your cabinet display. Unfortunately, I was not able to locate a black blaster for him." No problem, Gary. I will be able to get one of those, don't you worry. Also included is an extender plinth so that you can display the blue and red snaggletooths together, and some extra bits for little Bossk. Enjoy, Gary. Thank you so much, Gary. You are super, super generous. I really do appreciate it. So let's just have a look what is in the box. And I think this is for little Bossk. Let's get this out. This looks like one of those Bendums, doesn't it? Were these out in the 90s? So we've got Chewie. Is that a Bendum? Yes, Bendums. There we go at the top there. So that looks pretty good. 1993. There you go. And then you can get some of the other ones. So yeah, we will open that, and I'll let little Bossk have a go on that. Next in the box we have this little tub here. So we'll get this out here. Let me just put this box down here. Okay. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. So first off, this is the extender plinth for the cabinet, which is just up there. That's my collector display cabinet, which holds my 96 or 97 figures if you include blue snag. And this allows you to sort of stick it in there, and then you can have 2 figures on there. We can have blue snag because he's taller at the back, and then red snag in front. So thank you so much, Gary. I did not have one of those for that, so that is going to be perfect, so I can display both of them. We also have some pin badges here, some Return of the Jedi. We've got Gamorrean Guard in there. Let me unzip that bag. I presume, again, these are for little Bossk. Let's have a look what we've got. We've got Return of the Jedi. That's pretty cool. We've got an Emperor's Royal Guard. We have Max Rebo, which is awesome. And we have the Gamorrean Guard. I love that image of the Gamorrean Guard. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much, Gary. And then finally, we have the Han trench coat, which, as I say, when I put my 96 figures into my new cabinet, which is just up there in the background, I noticed I was missing a Han trench coat. And the reason for that is I did have one, but the reason for that is that I graded my one because it was in such amazing condition, as is this one, by the way, Gary. So thank you so much, my friend. That I thought I'd, you know, try it and get it graded. It's the first time I'd ever sent a figure off that's a vintage figure, and it came back with a 90. So he's encased in a plastic case, so I can't get to him. So thank you so much, Gary. I will find a blaster for him and he will go up. There's a little orange gap for him there. And then that will be that completed. So thanks so much, buddy. Okay then, so all that being said, let's get on to the first question. And it is from Jonathan Garcia Martinez. And he says, hi Bossk, do you ever see Hasbro releasing a Baze Malbus in the vintage collection? It is sorely missing next to Chirrut. It is indeed, and he is on my top 10 for the last figure standing poll. 100% he is on there. And yeah, without him, Chirrut is a little bit lonely. And I'm getting a little bit fed up, as you know, of, incomplete scenes. And that is the main reason why he's on my top 10 list. I'm figuring maybe they haven't done him already because perhaps he is going to be quite a big figure with, the big blaster that he has, that like cannon thing. And maybe when they do that, he'll have to be a deluxe. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why they haven't done him, because he, similar to the Paz Vizsla figure, basically. Peter Cyro Tiak says, hey Bossk, love your videos. Question for next week. Do you think that Hasbro will release any more vintage collection figures from the Book of Boba Fett? I'd love to see a Hasbro Pulse fully articulated Rancor to go with Boba Fett's throne room. Also, do you think we'll see some vintage collection figures and ships from Mandalorian Season 3? So I don't think we're going to be getting a Rancor personally. As for the Book of Boba, I think we are almost done with that in terms of next year anyway. I can't really see them doing too much else from the Book of Boba Fett. Possibly a Cobb Vanth is on its way. But I think, the second part of your question there about Mando Season 3, I think that's where they're going to be going next year. If you look at the pipelines, heavily Mando Season 3, and I'm sure they're not the only ones either. So we're definitely going to be getting those, and yeah. But Book of Boba Fett, I think we've pretty much got most of that. I mean, of course, there's always background characters that we want, but if you take like maybe Cobb Vanth and the Pike Syndicate, pretty much we've got every other character that's in the Book of Boba Fett, aside from the background characters like your Gamorrean guards and the lady that rung the cantina and things like that. Leon Jarmo says, hey BB, 200 episodes almost upon us. Question for next week. I've now got 4 waves of vintage collection on pre-order UK. I don't think waves have ever been stacked that much on pre-order with no ship. Why do you think that is? I think it's pretty much the fact that Hasbro seem to be enjoying revealing a figure from a future wave and from many different waves, and then our e-tailers that we tend to order our pre-orders from allow you to order the whole wave without knowing what the other characters are. So for example, Hu Yang the droid, at the moment he's the only character that we know is in one particular wave, but we're able to order that whole wave, and I think that's the reason why we've got so many waves on pre-order. Philip H says, question for next week regarding the recently pipelined Season 1 Zeb figure. Since Zeb is a larger character, do you think Hasbro will make this a deluxe release and charge a larger price, or do you think it'll be carded, since we have seen from the HasLab that the Zeb can fit on a card back even with multiple accessories? I personally am hoping for a carded release. I've got a feeling, when I thought about Zeb before we got that carded one in the HasLab, I always thought that if they ever did that figure, it probably would be a deluxe, and nothing has really happened to change my mind about that. I think the way they get their money back on these larger figures is by making them deluxe, and I know we are getting that one carded, which is great, but I think they're almost forced to do that with that mural card back. I think if Zeb is in the main line outside of any HasLab or anything like that, then it's a deluxe figure all day long. Nicholas Hallow says, hey BB, question for next week. Some vintage Kenner figures, e.g. the Jedi Knight and the Imperial Dignitary, suffer from bad paint rub on the nose. Are the vintage collection figures also susceptible to this, or does modern painting technology make it safer to chuck them all in a box together if need be? Cheers. I personally wouldn't chuck them all in a box together. I think you are going to, get damage to the paint, some scratches and things like that. When you talk about Jedi Knight and the Imperial Dignitary, often that paint rub actually came from inside the bubble. So where the figure rubbed against the inside of that bubble, that's what took the paint off the nose. Of course, being in a toy box with other toys and other figures, you're going to get damage as well. But those two, sometimes right out of the packet, already had the paint rub. Adam Guggenheim says, hello Tim, love your new room, congrats. Question, what is the TVC figure that you feel is the most underappreciated, undervalued? For me, it is the Solo Range Trooper. Yeah, I've put him there. It is a shame that he is kind of the only figure that we've got from that scene. All of the other characters, like Han Solo, I think they're in different outfits from the ones that we've got in the line. We haven't even got Chewbacca with the goggles like the Black Series have. So he is kind of like a lone soldier, and it is a shame because he is a great figure. So I can understand why you've picked him. I always think an underappreciated or undervalued figure is Bom Vimdim here. You can get him very, very easily on the secondary market, but in terms of a sculpting, you know, the head sculpt on that figure and the body and the detailing, paint apps and everything is really, really good. And then some more recent figures, regardless of the media that they're from, just from a figure perspective, the Rey from The Rise of Skywalker and the Reva from The Only One Kenobi are great figures. You know, I know if you don't like the characters, that's absolutely fine. But in terms of like just the figure itself, brilliant figures. Lawhas Flow says, hello Boss Bounty, big fan of your channel. And you got me into the vintage collection, whereas before I was a Black Series collector. There you go. My question for next week episode is, do you think the Pipeline Jango Fett will be an all new body but will still come with the same accessories as the old one and even the same card back? I open my figures but love to keep the cards, and that Jango card is amazing. Keep up the good work. So I don't think people need to worry about this particular card back here. This one I think will be the Jango Fett going forward. VC34, because I'm pretty sure that Hasbro did say that the Jango Fett that's coming is going to be a deluxe, so it's more than likely to be in one of those sort of closed boxes with extra accessories. And you can imagine the accessories that he's going to come with. You know, I mean, this is purely a guess on my part, but yeah, a poncho perhaps, you know, the rocket effects, fire effects coming out of his gauntlet, that kind of thing. All new body, I'm not 100% sure. I think there's going to be some crossover with the like Death Watch Mandalorian and things like that we've already got. I'm sure they're going to be able to leverage some of those parts for him. So I'm not too sure if he's going to be all new, but certainly he's going to be a deluxe. Mitchell Gum says, question for next week. Hey Tim, the Life Day Chewbacca seems like they are selling pretty well. Here in the US on Pulse, they've sold out very quickly within hours. I hope to see more of these kind of figures made, particularly from the OT. The actual black Death Star droid on a Star Wars card would be one I would love to see made. What would be your weird figure preference be? So here is the Life Day Chewie. I'm not going to review this on the channel. I'm not going to open him up. Essentially, it's the same Chewbacca that we got from the Smuggler's Run Falcon over there, except for the fact that he's got a new hand to hold the orb, and you know, he's got his soft goods. The head is basically that head from that Chewbacca that came with the Falcon. It's not really a figure that's going to fit into my loose collection anywhere. It's typically a carded thing for me, and interestingly enough, it doesn't have a VC number either. And what I also did notice about this card back is that the back of it is very glossy. It seems to be a different cardboard to other TVC figures that I have. I'm not too sure if you've noticed that, if you have him in hand as well, but to me the back of the card almost looks like a sort of a plastic feel to it. But that's that. But in terms of what would I like them to do that's similar to something like that, I would have to go with the blue Snaggletooth. I think that's like a classic nod to the original Kenner line. You could make him a little bit taller than the one that we already have, just to give it that sort of classic feel. But yeah, I think blue Snag on a card back, similar to like what they've done with the Life Day Chewie, would be pretty cool. Nino Brown says, question for next week. Do you and the community see value in more scene-based packs with small vehicles and figure combos? I'm thinking of the Revenge of the Sith Senate pods, Star Wars Rebel Troop Transport, ESB and Return of the Jedi mini rigs, etc. Outside of the speeder bike, there is a void of small, less expensive vehicles. For many of us, our intro into Star Wars toys were these smaller items. Exactly, yeah. I mean, the mini rigs, that's what they were designed for back in the day, for parents to be able to just buy a kid like a cheap vehicle. They were never in the movies, basically. And for me, I think there is definitely a place for that sort of thing. I mean, I'm amazed that we haven't got more swoop bikes, like the Mando swoop bike, even Cobb Vanth's speeder, that kind of thing. They seem like things that would sell pretty well to me. And yeah, I think there's definitely room for them to do them, and I hope they do them. Apologies, but I should have thanked Shannon Portratz at the beginning of the video to say thank you for the $10 super thanks on last week's Ask Boss Bounty. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. Mokal5354 says, question for next. We have got numerous 4-packs of Imperial troops and officers. We have got a New Hope Rebel Fleet Troopers and Empire Strikes Back's Hoth Echo Base Soldiers. When will we get a Return of the Jedi Endor Rebel Commando 4-pack? Well, unfortunately, mate, I think we may have missed the boat on that one. I am, you know, really disappointed that we did not get that this year in the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. I really did think that that's something that they should have done, considering all the other Endor items that we got. That would have really finished it off quite nicely. Maybe a couple of Ewoks as well, but definitely a 4-pack of Rebel Commandos was really needed. And as I say, I think we may have kind of missed our chance for that now. Reckless Deck says, Tim, question for next week. With the Ahsoka wave shipping now and the Krennic Hera Chopper wave coming soon, what do you think will be Hasbro's focus after that? Will they just cherry pick random figures from across the prequels, OT and new media? Obviously they're not doing the sequel films. Or do you think they'll have more focus than that as they move through 2024 releases? If so, can you give us your prediction on how that will unfold? Phantom Menace, Mando Season 3, A New Hope. Love to hear your thoughts. As I said earlier in the video, I think we're going to get quite a bit from Mando Season 3 next year. A lot of it's been pipelined, but I'm sure there's more to come. Then we've got the small matter of Skeleton Crew. That was due to be aired this year, but I think it's been put back to next year. So it would not surprise me if the sort of new media offering next year, this year it's been Ahsoka, will be Skeleton Crew next year. I could probably see maybe 4 or 5 figures from the Skeleton Crew if it doesn't get delayed again. That's where I kind of see them going. Obviously you've got a sprinkle of other things in there, but Mando Season 3 for sure, and then yeah, whatever that new media is. Purple Music says, hi BB, loving the new display cabinet for your original 96 figures. Question for next week, what are your thoughts on their new 4-inch 5 POA range? I prefer they use the budget for TVC. I'm not really sure what the point of it is to have another offering that potentially kids will invest in and want to start collecting, for it simply to disappear in a year or two. Yeah, this one really came out of nowhere for me. At the end of the day, is that going to be replacing Mission Fleet, or is Mission Fleet going to be running alongside it? I think we all realise that Hasbro have got too many lines, and it wasn't long ago that they said, 5 POA, 3.75 is gone. I know their advertising was 4-inch, but let's get this straight. They're 3.75-inch figures, aren't they, really? And, I think Jason even on one of his posts in the comments section somewhere even mentioned the potential of vehicles, perhaps. This really winds me up a bit, because essentially, they've got too many lines and they need to reduce the lines, not make more. And I don't really know exactly how the sales were going for Mission Fleet. There was a lot of it about in the shops and everything. So maybe the kids weren't interested, and this is how they're going to, this is the route that they're going to go again. Who knows what they're going to do in the future. But yeah, obviously from a 3.75-inch viewpoint, I feel the budget should go to TVC. This is a kid line, apparently. Does the kid line's budget affect the sort of collector lines anymore? Are we only fighting against the Black Series and Retro Collection for that budget? I don't know on that front, unfortunately. Gus Gil says, hey Bossk, great video as always. Question for next week. Since we have the new Clone Trooper mould, and with Hasbro's advancement in tooling for figures, do you think they would revisit things like the old Order 66 packs with new updated moulds and better articulation? Keep up the good work. Mate, I would absolutely love that. I really liked these things here, these 2 packs. I think obviously if they were to do something like this in the future, they would come in the form of those carded 2 packs, like the Obi-Wan and Vader 2 pack that we've just got, and the Ewoks 2 pack. But an Order 66 version of those, like a run of those, would be absolutely awesome. If you had, you've got Obi-Wan here with the AT-RT driver. You could have Commander Gree and one of those elite troopers, the Kashyyyk troopers. There's so many. You could have Yoda. There's so many that they could do for Order 66. Cody. Fantastic idea. I'd love to see them do that. Andy McGlashan says, is it safe to assume the Pipeline, Sabine and Chopper on the Memorial card back will be a 2-pack like Vader and Kenobi? Yeah, I don't know if it's safe to assume, but thinking about your question now, that would be from a logistics point of view, that would be a great way of doing it, wouldn't it? It'd protect the card backs as well. Hasbro would make more money because it would force people to buy both. I'm sure pretty much everyone that's getting the Ghost and the other figures on those card backs are going to want both anyway, but it would definitely force you to do that. So yeah, I say, I don't think it's safe to assume. They might sell them separately, but I think that would be a pretty good way from a logistics point of view anyway. Beast of Viper Squad says, do you think we'll get a vintage collection Carson Tava? He's in the Mandalorian, Boba Fett and Ahsoka so far. Maybe with a re-release of the X-Wing to go with him. See, I'm not even too sure if the X-Wing that we currently have would fit a Carson Tava figure in there. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we don't have that figure yet. It would have to be a new sculpt. I've got Luke there. You won't be able to put Carson Tava's head on that body. He's a completely different shaped person, isn't he? And people have mentioned before about Porkins. Maybe they could share the tooling between Carson Tava and Porkins. I think that would be a great idea as well. When we're going to get that figure, I do not know. but it's definitely one that I think people would want. And as you say, he's been in multiple media now, so popular character. Armless Walrus says, "Hi BB, question for next week. Your collection room is coming along nicely, even though you now have this dedicated space. I'm sure you have more Star Wars stuff that you can fit in the room, and the collection keeps growing. So the question is, would your Star Wars collection spill into other areas of your house, e.g. the living room, or dare I say it, your bedroom? And how would Mrs. Bossk feel about this?" Well, I've got to be honest about this, mate. You know, this isn't the sole reason why I have this room. I'm very lucky to have this room as part of the extension that we've had on you know, the sort of the loft conversion. But my collection room was so small before that it was already overflowing into the lounge and other rooms. And, you know, it was starting to annoy Mrs. Bossk a lot. I'm able to move a lot of the stuff in here, but unfortunately, a lot of it is still going to have to be packed away. I just won't have the room to display it. So I'll have to like rotate it and things like that. I do have a lot more space in here, which is great. But yeah, in terms of overflowing, that is now not allowed. I have this collection room. It's a new collection room. And everything Star Wars has to stay within these four walls. Christian Barragan says, "Awesome video, question for next week. With the release of all these clones lately, do you think Hasbro will release a vehicle for the mainline or even a HasLab such as the ATT or a gunship? It's a shame to have so many prequel figures that interact with these vehicles but not have them in the line." Yeah, I can see what you're saying. They are releasing a lot of clones, aren't they? And the vehicles are lacking, but vehicles in general are lacking in the vintage collection. And I think the ATTE that we've had previously would be a great re-release. I would love one of those in my collection. And the gunship. I know that a lot of people would probably want a better scaled gunship, maybe a HasLab for it potentially. But at the moment, I really don't think that's going to happen. So, you know, as a stopgap, I would definitely like another chance to get a gunship for all of the clones that are coming out. You know, even the turbo tank, I'd take one of those as a re-release as well. Mika Goodman 2802 says, "Hey BB, great video this week as always. I love your channel and especially love your reviews of figures." Thank you, buddy. I really do appreciate that. He says, "Question for next week. What is it going to take for Hasbro to give us the Bad Batch crew? HasLab with a full crew and ship, or one figure every year? Just never getting them. Curious what your thoughts are. Thank you and take care." So yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at them closely enough to sort of understand what parts could be reused from the Hunter figure. But ultimately, you've got Wrecker, which is going to be a problem, isn't it? I've said this before, like, Wrecker will probably have to be a deluxe figure. He's going to be a different sculpt to all of the others if they can share the parts between the others. At the moment, I feel that Hunter is out on his own. I think there was a rumour at one point for Crosshair, but that seems to have died down a little. Yeah, I just don't understand how they're going to get these out. And this was my point about bringing like one figure out in a squad. I just don't see the point unless you're going to be doing them all. You've got to do them all for something, especially like the Bad Batch, that is a squad of figures that all come together. I can't see them doing is it the Marauder? I think is their ship. I can't see them doing that as a HasLab. I've got to be honest. So how else are they going to get them out? They've got to, yeah, it will end up being one a year. That's how I can see it going at the moment, because I can't see them just bringing them all out all at once. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's a bit of a shame. All right then, guys, that's it for this week's episode. I do apologise once again about the setup for this video. Hopefully I'll have something more permanent for next week's episode. And once again, if I didn't get round to answering your question this week, man, I had so many questions to go through, but that is great. That is what we want for this series to carry on. You know, it's always good to have a choice of questions. And if you really want your question asked, then put it down again, and hopefully I will get to it next week. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want to thank everyone once again for attending the live stream last night. I had an awesome time. And thank you as always to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Thank you to Gary Moore once again, and we shall see you on the next one.